Hey everyone. All right, well, we've already reached summertime, and so it's gonna be hot as hell outside. I'm already sweating really hard after today. Man, just so hot out. You know what we need to do? We need to comfort ourselves inside a nice air conditioning in a movie theater. We need to have a nice area in a movie theater, an auditorium where there's air conditioning, nice cold. You can just lay back on the recliner seats, eat some of that popcorn and watch a nice fun movie to cool down from the heat. Or if it's a rainy day, that works too, I guess. Yes, indeed, the summertime is a great time for movies to come out. All the summer blockbusters out there trying to compete. And with May apparently being the beginning of this summer blockbuster trend, even though summer begins in June, I honestly never got that. I, of course, had to check out a bunch of movies these past 2 months. So you know the drill. This is every movie I saw in May and June, ranked by me and no one else. I'm not ranking these because of I know the opinions of everybody. I'm ranking these because I have my own opinions. Have I made that clear enough? Good. Just wanted to warn you in case you have bad interest in my opinions, which I'm sure you probably already will. Let's get started.
So last place is a movie that I was interested in more so just the fact that it seemed like we were getting a comeback in the type of parody movies I miss. But at the same time, I also knew that this one could potentially end up just being as crappy as some of those bad 2000s parody films. The Scary Movie franchise has definitely not always been great. Honestly, I think the first one's the only one that I actually can say is good. And none of the sequels really were anything over average. But anyway, now we're on to the sixth one, called Scary Movie. They don't even call it Scary Movie 6. That alone I find to be a little stupid. But anyway, yeah, I guess that's the point. It's a spoof. You're not supposed to take it seriously or anything. And so we follow this horror film that brings back the original cast of the first one, the Wayans brothers, Anna Faris, Regina Hall, all the ones that you remember from the first two movies that end up disappearing for the sequels each time. So now they're all back and they're here to spoof just about every single popular horror movie that has existed for the past 10 years. With how long it's been since we got a scary movie, they definitely had to try and find as many popular horror movies to take on, and there are so many, and especially with these newer ones coming out. Seems like horror has gotten a much higher popularity, so there's so many ones they spoof here. What's the actual story? More so, it's just about the Ghostface from the first movie returning, as the main focus is spoofing the Scream reboot series, because I guess this is a scary movie reboot or something. I don't know. But yeah, he returns to do more stabbing. We see more of the old characters come back, do elements from other popular horror movies, like there's scenes based on Get Out, Long Legs, The Substance, the Scream reboot movies, like I said. Even friggin' Sinners is spoofed here. Yeah, they really do want to take us much. So what's the problem with this movie? Well, not only is it the fact that it really ends up being pretty unfunny, there's too many political jokes, too many like out of place jokes. To be honest, that's kind of what the thing is. Out of place, forced modern humor. I'm glad it didn't go too far with that, but at the same time, this movie has way too many forced political, real life, situational, and not horror related jokes. Ends up making it suffer the same energy as the bad scary movie sequels. Cause yeah, man. I mean, it definitely does feel newer compared to those, but that's mainly because throughout the movie they just bring up random things that are popular to this time. Not in terms of horror movies or even films in general, just in terms of anything in real life. Yes, they actually bring up real life situations too for this movie to joke about. They, of course, throw in other non horror movies to take hackle on pretty much anything that was popular the previous year or so, and yeah, that's kind of a big problem I had with these scary movie sequels, or even just any parody movie that was bad in the 2000s. The fact that they take away from the actual story with lampooning and instead waste time lampooning things that aren't related at all. Because that's what this movie does. It throws in a ton of horror movies, yet it doesn't give enough of them spotlight. Instead, replaces them with other jokes that aren't related to horror at all, and it ends up making for forced humor. Like I said, they just push in this modern modern stuff, like I don't know, political stuff, actors, controversies, or anything in between. They just say it randomly. They don't really. There's no setup with it. It's just random points. Someone's like, "So this that's happened recently" or something. I don't really know how I feel about that. I also am not a fan of how Anna Regina and the actor who played Doofy, I forgot his name. They honestly haven't aged very greatly with this movie. I don't know. They aren't super unfunny, but they're not really that funny either. I think the only characters who did work out great and have aged really well are the Wayans brothers themselves. Sean and Marlon Wayans, their characters are definitely still at the same level as they were in the first movie. So I will be honest, this movie wasn't good, but I actually didn't think it was awful. Because while there were a lot of forced, unfunny jokes, there actually were a lot of clever ones too. When it did spoof horror, it honestly did not do a bad job with it. Because yeah, it just tackles random popular horror movies that have existed, and it. I also think it really manages to actually kind of reference these movies in a fine way. When it doesn't do that, it replaces it with jokes that we don't need. That's kind of where the movie falls flat. But when it works fine, it has some fun horror. It does remind you of all the horror movies you've seen these past 10 years. I think I also especially love the ending of this movie. Will I spoil it? Yeah, I will. This movie ends with it being revealed that there were four killers, and all four of them were Marlon, Sean Wayans, and um, Anthony Anderson, Shaquille O'Neal, who were in the David Zucker sequels. And the whole ending involves them gushing about how stupid this franchise is. Like they talk about how stupid the Scary Movies franchise consistency is, which is funny. And then they just bring up ideas that this movie does, like bringing in younger kids for the crowd, or I don't know, just bringing back characters for some random reason. And it ends with them killing all these younger actors, being like, screw legacy sequels. That was good. Still, the movie's not good. But hey, seeing movies like this happen in theaters again is kind of cool. I will say that. The Mandalorian and Grogu. Ah, yes, Star Wars, man. There are lots of Star Wars fans out there, and there it seems to be a controversial fan base, especially for me. My opinions on Star Wars are pretty different from a lot of other people, so I kind of like to keep myself as a isolated Star Wars fan. As an isolated Star Wars fan, I was not getting complaining about this movie coming out. I know a lot of fans were like, "Screw this! This is just an extended episode of Star Wars. Some cash grab bullshit, stupid shit. Season 3 sucked, so this is going to be awful." But I personally was thought it would be interesting to see. I mean, we have seen cases of um, movies based on shows that do feel like a long episode of that show. I mean, there's Serenity, Twin Peaks movies, or even the Star Trek movies. They don't really seem to do too much to advance from the series. I guess I can't say it because I haven't seen them, but I mean, from how they look and from footage I have seen, they don't look really much different from the show, other than quality. Anyway, with this, I do think that there's potential for it to be good. And I was looking forward to it because I thought it could turn out to be pretty good. And it was okay. Just okay. I give it a decent score. It's a C. It was just alright. So, I will kind of just go back and forth on everything I liked in this movie and everything I didn't care for. I liked the characters we got. I was not all for all the CGI in this movie because some of it wasn't needed and kind of felt a little cheap compared to some of the other Star Wars movies. The action was pretty good, but when it slowed down, it got a little stale and boring. The chemistry between Mando and Grogu is great, but there's times where it feels too comedic, like the show, and I don't know. I feel like they didn't need this much comedy in it. It's good to have a little comedy in your movie, but I feel like sometimes they were a little too much. The cast is fine, except for the celebrities they throw in, because that's something that I'm sadly going to be seeing in Star Wars a lot more now, and I don't know how much of a fan of it I am. This movie gives us Sigourney Weaver in a role that's not even that big. Even throws in Martin Scorsese voicing one of the aliens. That's pretty crazy. But yeah, those are just kind of random cameo celebrity appearances or something. The movie is beautiful. except when there's a lot of dark footage, it seems. Okay, so I'm kind of just going back and forth, but that's kind of the thing. There's a lot of things I love in this movie, and there are some things I wasn't for. But might as well just go ahead and talk about what I do, why I do think this movie does work and does deserve to be part of the catalog of Star Wars movies that are a pass. There's Star Wars movies we all can say are fails, but to me, I say this one's a pass because I think it does do something special that the show does hasn't really got time to do. It makes both Mando and Grogu equally important. In the show, Grogu had importance. We knew that he knew the Force and was important for Mando's journey because he is a bounty hunter who's supposed to help rescue instead of kill, or at least not unharm. He works for the good side. It's essentially. I'm wording it stupidly, but anyway, yeah. In the show, he was supposed to be the main focus, and Grogu was supposed to be the comedic relief slash plot convenient character. In the movie, he is. They do make it seem like he's like that too, but this time his screen time is extended entirely, and he actually serves a major purpose with the story this time. Because like there's an entire bit of moment in the middle of the film where he actually is the one to save the Mandalorian. I know he has a name, Din something, but I don't really want to pronounce his last name, so I'll just say Mando. It's fine. I'm used to it. We like to call him Baby Yoda, even though that's nothing like his real name, so who cares? But anyway, yeah, he actually does save Mando after an incident where he could have almost died. He uses the Force to save him. He hibernates him. And at that point, Grogu becomes a major factor to this story. He actually does stuff to help. I mean, in the show he helped, but only at random points. Only it was like a accidental help, or he was told to. But here, Grogu is able to work on his own at times, and I do like that. It does give him more character. We don't have to look at him and just be like, "Oh, comic relief." I mean, I know there were people in the audience that were doing that because it did. He was sort of still a cute comic relief, but it was a cute comic relief that also made a big point to the plot. He was turned into a R2D2 in this film. In the show, he was like I don't know. He was just like the binoculars Luke had. I'm making a dumb comparison, but I'm saying the show gave Grogu importance to Mando, but in the movie, they gave Grogu importance to the actual story. And I think that's a big plus for this movie. I think all the action's good. I think it does do a good job at keeping the story going instead of slowing it down too much. It does slow down at times, and yeah, it is. There is a little too much CGI I wasn't a fan of. There were a lot of things I wasn't a fan of. The CGI wasn't great. The visuals, I guess, are passable for cinema. Some of the random cast members weren't needed or such. It does get weird at times, but still, it's fun. It has a story. It runs a purpose. I think it's a good pass for the Star Wars. It's a good pass of a movie in general. It's just okay. I will say that. It's a decent movie. Nothing amazing, but it doesn't have to be. Alright, so I said horror movies are a big thing now, and they are. But apparently now, a bigger thing than horror movies is horror movies directed by a super young person who hasn't gotten much of a career previously in anything big other than something like social media. Backrooms is just one of a couple of horror movies we've gotten recently that are made by YouTubers. YouTubers are now actually making their way to the film industry, and it makes me feel like I'm missing out. I mean, if they can do it, why can't I? Who knows? But anyway, this is based off of a series on YouTube that I actually never watched, of course, and I didn't watch it after I watched this movie. It tells the story of these bizarre back rooms, yellow rooms, that apparently show up randomly behind cheap, this cheap, unpopular warehouse store, furniture store. Actually, yeah, it's a furniture store that is not very popular. And then at one point, the people who work there discover these weird yellow back rooms and are lost in them. They don't know how to get out. They don't know where they are, why this is here, what's happening. And they end up finding a bunch of strange rooms, wide spaces. It gets confusing how big it is and where it's located. But it's also good to know that I think this movie seemed like it was going to tricked me into thinking that it was going to be a found footage horror movie, which would be awesome to see, especially with rooms like this. But then it's only for the opening, and the rest of the movie, it's these guys going into this back rooms without any actual found footage in it. So, yeah, no found footage involved. It's just going to be a bunch of backrooms crap, boring. But the movie did surprise me, and I turned out to like it because it really is pretty creepy. This movie is creepy. It is disturbing in all the right places. And because of how disturbing it is, I can't say I didn't like it. I really, really liked how creepy it got. Despite the found footage aspect being completely forbidden after the opening, we still got to see some creepy stuff go down. I actually got chills for everything that happened. I actually got scared at where this was going. I got scared for these characters even. I wondered what's happening about all this. Is there going to be an explanation? Is there someone responsible for anything bad here? What's the danger or something? Who's hiding? It's just there's all these scenes where they're kind of navigating their way, and I keep telling myself, "Oh God, someone's about to show up," and just it's for time to tell. So I do like that with this movie. Again, it's nothing great. I do think that, yeah, it definitely should have been a found footage movie. That would have been fun. And it took a little while till we could actually get to the scary stuff. I mean, I know it's the case with horror movies, but the stuff we got before it was not very fun, kind of just some cringe moments. But when we did get to the horror, it got great. So I will say, yes, this is a really good movie. Not one of the best horror movies I've seen this decade, but that does say something about how many horror movies we've gotten recently. Still a really good one. Ah, good old Steven Spielberg. He is still one of the greatest directors of all time. He is still my all time favorite director in cinematic history. He is still my idol. Even after this movie, I still adore him entirely. He is like my ultimate idol in film and pretty much in general. Okay, I idolize him probably the most out of any celebrity. Disclosure Day, his newest film that happens to be another alien film. Spielberg just loves alien stories. He's told a lot of them. So when I heard that this was another alien movie, I didn't want to say I was skeptical because it was Steven Spielberg, but I was kind of still hoping for good because we've seen Spielberg do lots of types of alien movies. There's Close Encounters, there's E.T., War of the Worlds. So I thought to myself, okay, well, I'm sure Spielberg has a new idea, right? He better. And I had to go see the movie to be sure what was going on. Disclosure Day is the story of this meteorologist, played by Emily Blunt, who ends up becoming possessed by aliens. And this is where it's just everyone starts realizing, well, at least everyone in the Area 51, as well as Emily Blunt's character, they realize that aliens could have visited Earth a while back. Aliens could be roaming around Earth and we just couldn't tell. That's what this movie goes for. Instead of going for the idea of abducting children or a one boy alien coming to Earth to befriend the kid or something, this film tells the story of aliens being discovered way too late. They're discovering aliens way after they've already found us. We didn't know they were here. And this movie kind of focuses on how Emily Blunt gets possessed, what she needs to do, how she has to escape the Area 51 crew who are trying to test her or something. I guess, she can't deal with that. She wants to take this herself or something. And what follows is a bunch of action, suspense, drama even. And we don't get to really see aliens until the very end of the movie. It is honestly a pretty exciting type of experience, but it wasn't the greatest experience. I will say, I kind of can't really consider this one of Spielberg's best movies or one of his best alien-based movies. That's not much, but still, yeah, this movie is flawed. I mean, some things aren't really explained the best. It does take time to get to some fun stuff. The action that we do get is kind of thrown in randomly. It doesn't seem like it's just kind of there out of nowhere or something. So yeah, in general, I will say that this movie isn't up there with one of Spielberg's. In terms of Spielberg's filmography,
it is one of the, I don't know, weaker of the bunch, but on its own, it's still a really good movie. Spielberg is such an amazing director that even his weakest movies are still something to be praised. But even this isn't his weakest film ever. I think there has to be at least one or two movies I've seen of him that I do say aren't good. But still, it's a really good movie. It acts weird at times. It definitely throws random things in without much purpose or so. And the alien portion is kind of blundered by the final act, but not to the point where it made me hate this movie. It still told its story well. It still went for something cool. I was invested, and that means that it's a movie worth praising. Here we have another horror movie from a director who has worked with YouTube and is super young. This one has been talked about a lot more than Backrooms. It is probably the most talked about horror movie of the year so far. Obsession is a movie that every horror fan or film fan in general is, well, obsessed with. And of course, had to. And it's a pretty interesting concept for a movie. One that I wouldn't think would make for a good horror film, but turned out to be one of the most popular ones right now. This film tells the story of a guy who seems to have this huge crush on this girl he works with, and he's super awkward, so he thinks he doesn't really have much of a shot. But then he finds something called a One Wish Willow that he apparently was just able to randomly purchase, and he decides to use it to wish for the girl of his dreams to love him more than anyone else. Yep, he has that power and decides to just waste it all on a chick that he thinks or doesn't think he can get with or something. To his shock, the wish does work, and she ends up becoming super in love with him. And so yeah, from there he's just like, oh, cool, we're a couple. However, things get horrible. She ends up becoming a disaster to him. She does things that are weird to him. She stalks him. She doesn't really like some ways he is. She's all like, am I doing something bad? Do you not love me? She pretty much goes insane, mentally insane. And from the movie forward, it's him kind of figuring out if there's ways he can fix the curse, like he can fix the wish, try to alternate it, but also learns he can't undo it either the only way he can undo it is if he kills himself. That's the only way he can undo it. I mean, it gets insane more and more. She ends up actually starting to become a psycho, actually kills people, and that just shows you, if a girl loves you more than anyone else, chances are she's just going to kill people. That's a little weird. I will say, after all the hype this movie had, and after I saw it with shock and terror, do I think this movie's a masterpiece? I'm going to go out on a limb here and say that no. I honestly don't think this movie is as awesome as other people say it is. It's pretty good, I will say. I definitely do love how it takes a simple idea that sounds like something out of a Treehouse of Horror Simpsons episode or something, and actually makes a scary and long thought out story with it. But I gotta be honest, the stuff of her going psychotic and the characters in general aren't very satisfying to watch. I know the movie isn't supposed to be a satisfying view, but when it comes to going to see a movie, I want at least some satisfaction, whether it's with the characters or with the way the movie plays out. And by the final act, I can't really say I was really satisfied with either. I feel like these characters just became more and more unlikable. I mean, our main character himself, he's supposed to be unlikable, but his actions just become more and more, what is wrong with you? And I don't really like movies that do that. Even with characters we're not supposed to root for, I still just don't like that throughout the movie I'm thinking to this guy's making all the wrong choices. It frustrates me. It's one of those horror movies that frustrates me with how unchoosing this character is. I don't know. It just didn't make for a pleasant, very simple experience for a movie that I want to sit through and actually be admired with. And even the other characters got really irritating. He had these other friends who really weren't that likable at all. Pretty much no character in this movie was likable. It's one of those movies that had no enjoyable characters in it. I don't mean unlikable, like they're bad people. It's in terms of like liking them in any way, in terms of how funny they are, how cool they are, how entertaining they are. That's not really, I don't really think any character in this movie is really entertaining. It has no entertaining characters for the sake, and the story drags on more and more to become more obnoxious and uncomfortable. At the same time, that sounds like me hating on the movie, but I still really liked it. The uncomfortableness was intended, and I do think it did a great job with that. Even if none of the characters were fun, at least the story could punish them more. I mean, we do get to see all these characters punished one way or another. And this psychotic girl who was pretty much cursed. The movie does end with him finally killing himself. Only it drags on because he decides not to just shoot himself with a gun or stab himself. No, he takes drugs, and that takes a while to last. So he still has to put up with her before he finally dies or something. It's a creepy, unsettling movie, and I give it a pass for that. It loses a few points for having unenjoyable characters and chaotically loud and uncomfortable parts to the final act of the story. But I guess those are expected with a movie like this. I still really liked it. It impressed me. It creeped me out. And it's great to see young filmmakers get this much credit for a movie that has already grossed more than $300 million. It surpassed the highest grossing horror movie last year. That's pretty awesome to say. So I do applaud this movie for what it does. I may not give it a 10 out of 10 myself, but I still think it's worth watching. Okay, so before I talk about this movie, I'm just going to talk about the history behind it. I am not one of those should have ended at free people because I understand why there's people like that. At the same time, though, I'm not a fan of how there are these many people that are like that. There are too many people that are kind of going after Toy Story for these newer sequels. I mean, I agree. Toy Story 3 is still my all-time favorite Pixar movie, my favorite anime movie of all time. It had everything to it. It was amazing. But at the same time, I accepted it as a movie that can continue forward. I mean, that's what the ending was all about, right? Actually, and the movie actually played out the ending where it seemed like this was actually going to wrap up these characters' story, but then something happens where they actually can continue going forward with their lives just without their original owner. That pretty much implied that there is room for more films to happen. And that's what we get. We get more films. Obviously, they're not as great as the trilogy, but I feel like people don't need to be calling them crap. I don't think they're crap. I love Toy Story 4. It's the most beautifully animated one, I will say. And I just think that movie had a lot of great stuff to it. And yes, I think Toy Story 5 follows that too. These Toy Story movies are all great. I'm sorry. The third and first one are my personal favorites, but every other one still is amazing too. This one tackles a topic that pretty much every person who loves Toy Story likes to satirize: the idea of tablets replacing them. Yep, this is a movie about technology and such. The thing is, though, instead of being one of those AI is bad films, because we have gotten a lot of those recently, this is more so focused just on a tablet, like a kid's tablet, like Leapfrog, One of those cute little tablets that kids play games on or such. It doesn't go too far to be like, damn you clankers. No, it's just this one tablet and such. And we follow the story of Bonnie getting this, and she gets it because everyone else has one. She wants to be included. She wants friends, and this is how she gets friends, by joining a club with iPads or such. And this causes a problem with the toys because she's not playing with them as much. She doesn't want to play with them because all the friends look at her like, girl plays with toys. What are you, some kind of 5-year-old? Because kids suck. And this movie actually puts focus on something different. Instead of being a whole Woody scared of being replaced, no, instead Jessie's the focus of the movie. She actually plays the main character part, along with Buzz kind of joining in on the bunch. Because there's also the cool subplot of a bunch of Buzz Lightyears that apparently were recalled or from a truck that, or a boat. They came out of a box from a shipment boat that washed up on shore, and so they all joined together to go on this long quest where they end up finding the others, and they all join together to do the climax together. That was pretty awesome, I will say. Yes, look, this movie has everything that is good to have for a Toy Story movie. The comedy is still great. I mean, I love how every new character it introduces is managed to be funny and enjoyable. Like this movie introduces a couple of other new toys. One is a toilet trainer voiced by Conan O'Brien. I thought it was going to be potty jokes or stand-up comedy from Conan, but no, he actually provides some funny laughs. His lines are great, and the character himself is really likable too. And some recurring characters still have their shine too. I mean, Woody is back after abandoning everybody last movie. That's not really what happened. He said he was gonna now no longer be a owner toy, instead just joining forces as a one who finds lost toys. He still plays that part in this movie. It's not him being like, all right, screw that life. I'm going back to being Bonnie's toy again. No, it's him coming to help them with their problem. That's what he is now. He's a toy who helps with problems. He's not one who just abandons them to do his own thing. No, he's there to become a helper more with all sorts of toys. He speaks for all toys out there and such. And for the movie, they have to stop him. But thankfully, this movie actually gives the tablet a purpose. I know a lot of people are thinking, "Oh, don't make him the good guy. I want him to be a villain that's defeated." But no, instead they do that. She's redeemable. By the second half, but it's not in the case that she redeems herself by saying, "Oh, all that stuff about me killing you and calling you a piece of crap was just a bad mistake. I apologize. I love you guys." No, she actually reveals that she just wanted Bonnie to be happy, and she's not happy with all this because the toys go lost and such. Sorry about that. Anyway, there actually is some good emotions with this movie. This movie follows Jesse's story more. The tragic backstory we learned from Jesse in the second movie is brought up in this one more. It's equally amazing, I will say. They have some great emotion to it. We learn more about what happened and with Jesse's original owner and what she did and everything. And it really made for some great stuff here. I just love, honestly, I just love just about not every aspect. There were some parts of the story that were clunky. It was kind of a clunky story, and I will say these actors, some of them have their shine, but others, I guess mainly the older ones, you can tell that there is at some point where we kind of do need to finish off this franchise, or at least these characters, because Tom Hanks and Tim Allen are still fantastic actors, as well as Joan Cusack and everyone else from the first movie. But at the same time, at some point, they are going to need to kind of give up with this, because one day I don't want to hear Woody going, "Oh, back in my day, Disney actually didn't worry about remakes." Okay, let me not do that. Anyway, still, I guess in a way of an issue, it is a bit more of the clunkier of the Toy Story movies. But it's funny, entertaining, emotional, beautifully animated, likable characters. All that is still present. And yes, I'm sorry, I think Toy Story 3 is still a fantastic movie that works as a continuation with more movies. I know a lot of people like to say that they don't need to watch these 4th or 5th ones because it's a perfect trilogy. I think it's a perfect trilogy and a perfect series as a whole. There was that Lightyear spinoff that nobody watched, but I mean, that still wasn't awful. It was average. It obviously was nothing like the Toy Story movies, but it was an average movie, so there hasn't been a single bad Toy Story movie out there, in my opinion. And I think that they are allowed to keep going, because we have seen these movies end with our characters still being able for adventure. None of the main ones died. Tom Hanks, Tim Allen, and Joan Cusack, they're still alive and willing to perform. So when the gimmick of them all moving with no one looking and being able to run that way, all of that is still present. So until that goes away, I'm fine with a 6. Still, I do want to admit, at some point I do think this franchise should close. I mean, it could have closed at 3. That could have made things less hard. But if they aren't, I'm fine with they're not going to do that. I just believe that Pixar should have a plan. They should. I mean, they have. I think I can trust them with this. I mean, they should, hopefully. So I'm hoping that they will be able to wrap this story up great, because these are still really great movies. I'm just hoping at some point they will know that there will be a good way to end this series. Because I am still a diehard Toy Story fan. My childhood has consisted mostly of Toy Story. I've said enough.